and welcome to another edition of the GSMC Baseball Podcast, Patreon exclusive content brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And I am your host, Kenneth Grunfelder. And as always, it is great to have you guys tuning in today. Just got wrapped up with the live stream portion of the show. And there was one thing that I keyed in on towards the end there that we'll get into. We talked about the latest news. There wasn't a ton of major headlines, because we did go over the Ohtani stuff earlier, talking about the surgery went well and things like that. Really just talked about Corbin Carroll and the season that he's having, and that, he's right now the front runner for National League Rookie of the Year. Then we went and talked about the MVP race regarding the National League. And, and I'll go into more detail with this. So, watching it on MLB Network and them talking about the candidates and, the meaning of MVP, it's the topic is, should there be two awards? Should there be the best player and then you have the most valuable player, which is, if you take this player off of a team, they're not the same? That's definitely a discussion to be had. And I think you could make the argument for that. Because, and I did mention how when Judge and Ohtani were going at it last year, you take Judge off the Yankees, his 62 home runs, they're not a playoff team. But you take Ohtani off the Angels, they're still not a playoff team. Like, it really doesn't make a difference. But that's because the Angels are a bad team. The Yankees without Judge aren't a good team, and it's just. But this year, like I mentioned, it was kind of funny how last year that was the case, and then and this year, Judge is hurt. They're over 500 the whole time. Excuse me, and then he comes back, and then they go on that 9-game losing streak. And that was with him playing. So, yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I listen. I'm not someone that's like heavily like advocating for it. It's fine. Like, they could go with it. They could go with that. Do without it. I'm not somebody that's like, pushing for that to happen. But if it does happen, it's not. I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think it makes sense. Because it really is all about the context in which you are referring to it. Everybody interprets it differently. Because, you could look at most valuable player and you could say, Luis Ariz, you take them off the Marlins, are they where they are? Probably not. But, yeah, and if you take Acuna off of the Braves, they're still a first-place team. It's just, and you saw it a couple years ago when they won without him. So I understand that. Will that ever change? And it's like that in other sports too. But I don't know. But that was just something that they were talking about. It was a very heated debate. But if you did watch that, you know what I'm talking about. Because I just didn't want to watch the Yankees last night. It was terrible. It really has just been an awful year. I had this team winning 97 games, and they just. Ugh. All right, so let's talk about more important things here. So the playoff races obviously are just insane right now. The National League West, or the American League West, sorry, you got 3 teams. The Astros, they picked up that big win against the Orioles yesterday, so they salvaged the final game of the series, which, good for them, because you got the Rangers and the Mariners who aren't losing, and it's going to be important because the Astros, they're going to be playing the Mariners at some point. It's coming up. Rangers and Mariners are going to be playing each other this weekend, so that's big. That's the first, because they're going to meet, twice. They're going to meet for 3 games and then for 4 games to close out the year. So it's going to be very important. That's going to dictate a lot of things because, like I talked about on the show, other than the Central in the American League, nothing's finalized yet. Nothing is finalized yet. You still have a bunch of teams that you still have a bunch of things that aren't decided yet. You know that the Orioles and the Rays, one of them is going to win the division and one of them is going to have the top spot in the wild card, but you don't know who it's going to be. And the Rays, they got to deal with the Blue Jays, who are going to be fighting, or who are fighting for their wild card spot right now. So that's not going to be easy. But I think the Orioles are still going to win the division. I hope they do, because that would be great for them and their fans. But we're just gonna have to wait and see at the moment. Trying to lower the brightness on the light. It's like blinding me right now. And I say that now, but I literally did the whole show like that. But yeah, so then I'm just waiting for another outburst by the dog, who once again is waiting to come in here, laying right by my door. So hopefully I don't get hopefully she doesn't jump scare me again like she's had a couple times since starting the show. But one of the big things, and I just finished talking about this, is the Padres. The Padres right now, 4.5 games back for that final wild card spot. And I'm going to go over it again. They have a soft ending to their season. Their schedule, they got the Cardinals. They have the Giants, and then they have the White Sox. I really think that they could go on a run here, and they can make this very interesting. Because the Cubs right now are not playing well. They did win the other night, but last night Justin Steele on the mound did not pitch well, and he hurt his Cy Young chances, which I did go over in the first segment of the show, or in the show. I didn't go over it in the first segment. I went over it in the National League playoff picture segment. So yeah, it's I'm pretty intrigued by that, because if the Padres somehow make the playoffs after everything that's happened this year, but now obviously they got to go on. It's not good enough. They got to go on a run. But I definitely think if they sneak in, that's a team that nobody's going to want to play against. Because, yeah, they've had a rough year, but with the lineup that they have, talent's all there. The lineup they have, I know the rotation was dealing with some injuries. Josh Hader's a closer, although he has blown some games this year. That's a team you still don't want to face. Because if the Padres make it as the last wild card, right now the team that's going to play them would be the NL Central. Right now that would be the Brewers they would play against. Now, Brewers got very good pitching, but Padres have a very good line. And I love how I'm talking about this like this is a foregone conclusion, but I don't know. It could happen. It could very well happen. So I'm very intrigued by that. And I mean, 4.5 games back, like that is doable. It is gonna be tough. It is gonna be tough, but I don't know. I mean, they got the talent to do it. They got the team to do it. They just gotta keep winning games, and I think they could definitely do that. So actually, let's see. So I think they start their series with the Cardinals tonight, I believe. Let's double check just to make sure. Yeah, so they start. Oh wait, I think they're off tonight. Yeah, so they're off tonight. Then tomorrow, 3 games at home against the Cardinals. So they got Waldron pitching, who's 1-3 with a 5.16 ERA, so that's not good. But against the Cardinals. Then they got Martinez. He's starting on Saturday 5-4, 3.73. And then Sunday, yeah, because they're dealing, like I said, I think they're dealing with some injuries to their rotation. And then they got Michael Waka, who's been very good for them this year, 12-4, 3.44 ERA on Sunday. So the first game might be tough, but against the Cardinals, they're having one of their worst seasons in a long time. So yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. And then they play the Giants, and then they play the White Sox to finish off the year, who have one of the worst records in baseball. So it's doable. It really is. It really is. So so keep an eye on that, because I definitely am. I definitely am. So, but yeah, I mean, the wild card again. Things are changing. Marlins, what happened with Jake Berger last night? That really stinks for them. And you're hoping that he's able to, still play. I don't know the severity of the injury, so hopefully he's okay. But yeah, I mean, injuries just ruin a lot of things. They really do. I mean, we saw in the beginning of the week with football, the Monday night game. It's just, I mean, there's a lot of injuries in football too. Already. It's just injuries are a part of the game, and you just gotta deal with it, and it stinks, and but you just gotta, at the end of the day, you just gotta deal with it, and you just hope the guys come back, they bounce back, and are healthy, and you'll see them play again. But especially now with baseball, I mean, football is just starting, but with baseball, I mean, there's a week and a half left. Around that left in the regular season, and a lot of these teams are fighting for their playoff lives right now. You got playoff games right now, basically, and yeah, you just got to keep going and hope that you get guys back and you're able to make it, because I think a lot of people would love if the Marlins made it. They made it during the COVID season, but if they're able to make it and get in, I mean, that would be cool. Again, that's a team you haven't seen make the playoffs in a long time. I mean, if you want to count the COVID season. I mean, does the COVID season count? Yeah, but do a lot of people really count it? Not really. I mean, that was just like, I really couldn't tell you what happened. I really don't remember. I mean, as a Yankee fan, I try not to. Of course, I remember the Brasso home run. I remember the first game, and I did watch the playoffs, and even after the Yankees were out of it, you paid attention to that. But it just that was a rough year. That was rough for a lot of different reasons, not just from a sports perspective, but yeah, that was when the Marlins made it, and now they got a chance to make it again, and it'd be nice to see that. But that would be at the expense of, right now, the Cubs. Cubs looked like they were a lock when I first started. So let's go back. Let's actually go back. So I'm trying to remember. So last week was like first week I did it. So we started. All right. So I think I started on the 6th. I want to say. I think, was it the 6th? The 5th or the 6th? So at that point, Cubs were like 11 games over, or 12 games over. So we'll say the 6th. They were 12 games over. So I was like, yeah, I mean, this team's a lock for it. And now all of a sudden, they're 6 games over. And they're in the third wild card spot. Diamondbacks are a game and a half up on them. Justin Steele not pitching well last night. That's a big concern right there, because that's an important game. You got your Cy Young candidate on the mound. You're at home against a team that's not very good. You should go out there and win that game. And yeah, Pirates put up 13 runs against you. That's not good. It's not good. Cubs could find themselves as the team to be on the outside looking in, after I said Yeah, they should make it. This has been a collapse. And another thing that they brought up on MLB Network was, would it be a disappointment if the Cubs don't make it? I mean, I didn't think they were going to be a playoff team this year. I don't think a lot of people did, because you were banking on guys to have banking on guys to have bounce back seasons. You have Bellinger, who has had a great year for them. Was struggling a little bit lately, but he's been solid for them. You brought in Dansby Swanson. They did have an interesting offseason, but I don't think many people expected them to make the playoffs. So I mean, in the overall, like from the beginning of the year, if you predicted them to not make the playoffs, it's not a disappointment. But I think as the season has progressed and how they have played a lot better, and they put themselves in the position that they were in before this stretch of bad baseball, I think it is disappointing, because it looked like they were going to be that second wild card, and then all of a sudden they went on that 2-8 stretch, and now they're only a half game up, and they got the third spot. Yeah, it's a disappointing. It's a disappointment. It's a disappointment. But like again, it depends on who you talk to and how they looked at the Cubs going into the season. It's going to be disappointing they didn't make the playoffs just because they were playing well and they were in a great position. But now, because they're not playing well, and now their Cy Young pitcher is, giving up 6 earned runs last night. If they don't make the play, and Cody Bellinger having a great year, they don't make the playoffs. Yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing for Cub fans. I mean, listen, they got their championship, but they want to win more. Though I don't think this team is a championship team. They do have solid players, but I don't think it's a championship team. Even if they do end up making it. But again, it all goes back to teams have had magical runs, and it's possible that the Cubs. It's possible any team can do that, but right now I don't see it. So, but I do see the Padres, if they make it. I don't know. I just can't. I can't get over, like, if they. I'm rooting for it to happen, because listen, since starting the show, I just kept saying this is going to be a team that I'm going to talk about, and how they were a disappointment this year, and the moves they made, and all that. And they got a chance. They got a chance to make the playoffs right now. Listen, that's a team that you say it's right in front of us. It is, because of the schedule they have, what other teams are dealing with right now, what they got coming up on their schedule. This is the perfect opportunity for the Padres to go on a run and maybe sneak somehow, some way, sneak into the playoffs. I think it would be hilarious if they made it. I really. But you know what? The problem now is I noticed it. So now, because I talked about it today, and you could see it all over my face how how excited I am over this, or how fascinated I am over this. Like, they make the playoffs. Well, no, because I talked about this. Now they're gonna do terrible. Now they're just gonna lose the next, they're gonna get swept by the Cardinals, and then that'll be the end of it. But no, I'm rooting for it to happen, because I think it would be so funny if you got the Padres somehow making it in, and because I think I talked about, if they miss the playoffs, do they blow it up and rebuild? But none of those conversations will be had if they end up making the playoffs and going on a little bit of a run, because they can, and they've won 7 in a row right now. They got a soft finish to their schedule. I mean, it's not impossible, and 4.5 games back. Listen, you do well this weekend, and the teams lose again. I mean, with 6-7 games to go, it's doable, man. It's doable. And that's something that I wish my team would do. But, they bring up the young guys. They were playing well for a little bit. I mean, they swept the Astros. And then they came back down to earth, and then Dominguez got hurt. He did undergo Tommy John surgery, so that was done. I don't think there was any updates on it as of right now, but I'm assuming it went well. And actually, no, I think my friend texted something in our sports chat. I forget what he said, but yeah, no, he said expect him back earlier than. Oh no, was there a? We're talking about Dynasty again for fantasy, so hopefully nothing big happened. I'm just scrolling through that. I'm just scrolling past that where he said something about. Oh wait, nope, this is not a different group chat. Where did he say it? I'm trying to find it. It was something about Dominguez, but I didn't answer just because I'm like so disgusted with how the team has been. So, yeah, but oh yeah, so he said Dominguez got the internal brace, and he said early return next season. So that's something that he saw. I didn't. I'll be honest, I didn't see it. So, yeah, so that's good. So that means the Martian will be back. Hopefully that means he's back, early part of the season. I'm just curious to see what the Yankees are going to do because they got a lot of holes on this team. They need to fix this team because this team it's not a fun team to watch right now. And I talked about it on the show too. I could go over for hours on this. I could talk about this team for hours. I could. I'd be repeating myself, but then we wouldn't have a show. We wouldn't have a show. It would be a Yankee show, and we don't want that. But again, let me know what you guys think about all the stuff that I talked about today. Excuse me again. Pertaining to the playoff picture. The Padres. Can the Padres go on a run? That might be one of the shorts for today. Is can the Padres make the playoffs? I can't stop talking about it because it just I might have to devote this. Well, I got to see how tonight. Well, they're not playing tonight. They play the Cardinals this weekend, but actually no, I'm not going to devote it as its own segment because I mean, how much am I going to talk about with that? I think what I did at the end of the show today, that I think that was good enough. But it really is something that you got to keep an eye on because I can't. I'm gonna say it again. It can happen. It definitely can happen. Because with like the Yankees, they would get to like 6.5 games back, and then you're like, okay, now take that next step, and then they would go back down. The Padres, 4.5 games back. It's possible. It really is possible. And the teams ahead of them are all not great. They got, some of them are dealing with bad stretches, injuries. They could definitely do it. It's just the most important thing they have to do is win your own games. Because if you win your own games and you still fall short, then it's like, okay, but, we did what we had to do. I mean, although they should have been doing what they had to do for the whole season, they've just, they got 78 losses right now. And, with that lineup going into the season and guys they have in their rotation, you expected them to go out and be one of the best teams in the National League and one of the best teams in the entire league period. But it just it never happened. So this could be. It could get very, very crazy if the Padres somehow make the playoffs. I mean, I would have a lot of fun with that. I really would, and I would like to see them make the playoffs, because you know what, you put them in with that lineup, with Machado, Soto, Tatis, Bogarts, I want to see that. I want to see that. I mean, I would like to see. I don't know. I mean, any of these teams, I think you'd have fun with, just because the young players and some of them haven't made the playoffs in a while. It's. I think you wouldn't really complain. I think with the Padres though, like seeing that lineup in the playoffs, and also that benefits ratings on television as well. From a business aspect. But I mean, I think whoever makes it, I'm okay with whoever makes it. But if the Padres have a chance to make it, I would. I'm kind of hoping for that, because I just think it would be funny that they were doing bad this whole year. There'd be a couple times where you think like, hey, this is where they're gonna break out of it, and then they don't, and then it ends up being at the very end of the season where it looks like they're done, and they sneak in. I think that would be a great story. It really would, but I think now that I've basically talked about it for the last 45 minutes. It's a little less than that. Towards the end of the show, the last we'll say the last half hour, basically. 35 minutes we'll say. Now it's not gonna happen. Now they're just gonna get eliminated by the next time by next week. So, but I hope it happens. But it's going to be tough because you never want to be in a position where and it goes for all sports. You never want to be in a position where you have to rely on somebody else. You don't, and that's a very basic thing to say. But if the Padres, if they would have, and I know I talked about, I brought it up on, I think it was one of the shows this week. If you flip a lot of the one-run games from this season with all the teams, I mean, the Padres have a very good record. They've lost so many close games this year, and you flip some of those, and you're holding that wild card spot right now. It just shows you how, you could talk about, hey, it's just April, it's not a big deal. But listen, every game's important. You got to stack the wins, because then you don't have to stack them at the end. And that's right now what the Padres are doing. So, but yeah, this was basically a Padres Patreon exclusive content episode, because I 4.5 games back. Like I said, I really just was yeah, they're done. But slowly but surely, they've kind of brought themselves into the picture. Now, are they going to make it? I'm leaning still more towards no, but by the end of the weekend on Monday, if they sweep the Cardinals and they find themselves 2 games back, anything's possible, just like Kevin Garnett said. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, with that's all the time that we got for this edition of the GSMC Baseball Podcast, Patreon exclusive content. So make sure to tune into the show tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we'll have another Patreon episode released after that. I will record after that. So until then, I am Kenneth Gruenfelder, once again signing off from the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, or Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Make sure to tune in at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on the YouTube channels. So have a good day, and I will see you then. Take care.